Hi guys, it's Leela with Experiencing Parenthood. I wanted to go live since we did our post last week about documenting your explosive child's behavior. So I just wanted to go through that real quick. There is a printable on the blog post dated March 10th that you can find a printable behavior chart so you can document your child's behavior. As you can see, it started with documenting myself, if I woke up with a headache, how I slept, dreams, if I took my meds, if I ate meals, how I was feeling. And then I kind of turned it into something for Blake and figured, well, if I was doing this for myself, why not do it for him as well? And I had these all sorted out because his has changed since I first started it, because it does take a little bit of finding what you want to document for their behavior. So this was Blake's from November, and I ended up, after playing with it for a while, kind of splitting his days into 3. So I split his morning, so we can document his morning. If he took his meds, because he does take medication in the morning. He also takes medication in the afternoon. Looks like this one's probably a little old, so I didn't have it. But if he took his morning meds, I'm sure if I look for a more recent one, the melatonin will be down at bedtime, because his melatonin is something that he takes when he feels he needs it. So if he thinks he needs his melatonin, he'll let us know. And then I documented when he would have it. And then I would document, so the time he would wake up until lunchtime. For school days, that would essentially be the time he woke up until he left for the bus, which typically would only be anywhere from a few minutes to maybe an hour at the most. I would document a minus if he was having a bad morning. I would do a plus if it was a positive. If it was just an okay morning, nothing too significant, I would put a dash. And then, of course, as you can see, I would make notes as to what that implied. So if you see, like, the morning, he had a negative morning, and it looks like he was fighting with his sister all morning. He didn't want to take his meds. So it appeared that he was being defiant, a little aggressive. He was physical with his dad at night. And so I broke it up. Afternoon would be noon to 6. So again, if it was a school day, I was only documenting the time he came home, which is 2:30 until 6. His bedtime behavior from 6 p.m. till the time he fell asleep, which bedtime at our house is 7, but if you have a child like ours, you know that bedtime doesn't happen right away. So then I would keep notes. These numbers here, I'm going to assume that we were doing a med change of some sort, so I was probably documenting, nope, actually, if memory serves me, these are going to be behaviors. He had to get so many days with 2 or more positives to earn a reward that he wanted. It happened to be a Pokemon book that we bought when he asked for it, but we had set the deal that he had to have so many days with 2 or more positives for his day to get his reward. So as you can see, it worked out for us to do it that way. And then, like I said, I would keep just detailed notes about what his behaviors were. That way, when we went to his appointments, I had documentation of what was going on. I could tell them the nights he took his melatonin. I could tell them, yes, he takes his morning meds every day. I can tell you that his mornings are typically pretty good. His afternoons are fine, but nighttime gets a little troublesome. Again, note specific as to what happened that would cause a negative or a dash. So it was really helpful for us and the doctors to be able to see this. I've kind of slacked on it lately, so it's something I need to get back into doing. But with the principle that I shared on the blog post, it's free for you to go in and download. It's free for you to use. You can download it. You can document your child's behavior. I believe I have a dated and a non-dated, so whichever one you want to use. But for me, I just found it really helpful to be able to document his day. I know I had tried in the beginning to share or to document like a full day, and it just was not something that was feasible, and so I broke it up into his morning, into his afternoon, into his bedtime. Plus, it was a nice way for us to keep track of his meds. So morning meds, I would now add in a spot for his afternoon meds because he does take his medication after school. You can break up your morning, afternoon, bedtime hours any way you like. I found that mornings and afternoons worked fairly well for us. It was usually bedtime we had an issue. I might change this up a little bit to be more like wake up to noon, but I might shorten his afternoon to 12 to 4 just because we've noticed his afternoon behaviors kind of start closer to the 3-4 o'clock because that's when he gets home from school. So as we know, they sit still in school all day, but then they kind of explode when they get home because they've been holding it in. And his, of course, bedtime behaviors, which I might add, what time he finally fell asleep. Because like I said, bedtime's at 7, but a lot of times Blake does not tend to go to sleep until much, much later. We put him to bed at 7, and there's most nights we don't see him go to sleep until, 10, 11, sometimes midnight. So documenting what time he goes to sleep will be helpful for the doctors as well. So essentially it's just keeping a record of how their day went, how their behaviors were, if they took their meds, if they took optional medications, what their behaviors were, if they had a behavior, if they were aggressive, if they were defiant, if they were yelling, if they were hitting siblings, if they were hitting you, if they were throwing things, that type of thing. So it helps you to document their behavior. It also helps when you go to doctor's appointments, when you're on the spot and you're trying to figure out, oh yes, this was the behavior he had on this day. He did this. It's also a good thing to keep notes as to what happened before that behavior leading up to it. So it might be you told them to go to bed and they got defiant. They said no, they started screaming, they started crying, they started throwing their toys at you, they started hitting you, they started kicking you, they started trying to bite you. That would definitely be something to take in your notes. Of course, letting the doctor know that, on this day when we told him this is the response that we got from him. The more documentation you have, the easier it is on you when they're asking questions, and the easier it is to see patterns in their behavior, especially when you're working on adjusting medications, working with a therapist, and that type of stuff. So I just want to do a quick share as to how we used ours. Again, this is just our system. You can use your system however it fits you, your child, your family. You can find the free printable on the blog, experiencingparenthood.com. And if at any time you have any questions, go ahead, leave me a comment. You can message me on Facebook. You can email me. You can leave a comment on the blog. They all come through me before they get approved. I'm always available for questions, comments, what have you. So again, if you have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, you can get your free printable on the blog. Have a great week.